So Illuvium just sent out a surprise airdrop to all the Illuvium landowners. It's coming in the form of these fuel crates, and the fuel crates are going to be exchangeable for fuel when we get to open beta. A lot of people seem grateful for this. You know, Illuvium didn't have to do anything, but it seems to me that a lot of people don't really understand that the impact this does have on the economy, especially the early economy when we first hit open beta. So I made an X post to accompany this video that I'll be putting out at the same time. You can see here I'm titling it as Illuvium Surprise Fuel Crate Airdrop, a thank you, a marketing ploy, strategic planning, or all three. Now, I don't want this video to be taken as FUD in any way. I'm just going to go through how I see it, how it fits into the economy. You can make your own decision on how you feel about it, but I will give a little bit more of my opinion at the end of this video. So as you can see here, we're going to touch on how fuel actually fits in the economy. Can Illuvium just simply print fuel out of thin air? I don't want to touch too much on rails, but the fuel crates do come in a similar situation to if we were hitting a top rail, what the early days of open beta is going to look like. And then I'll touch on the thank you, the marketing ploy, the strategic plan, and then my final thoughts. So you can see here, Kieran is making the fuel printer go brrr, however that goes. He's making the fuel printer go burr. So what's the purpose of fuel in Illuvium? Fuel is just the backbone to all of Illuvium. All games are going to utilize it. Fuel is created on the Illuvium 0 land plots and purchased from players in other games of Illuvium, mainly the overworld to start, could possibly be Illuvium Beyond, and any future game is going to utilize that fuel for the in-game purchases. So fuel will enter the economy through Illuvium 0. So Illuvium landowners will receive 5% of the total in-game revenue. So when a landowner sells their fuel to the market, Illuvium is going to mint 19x that amount. So that whatever fuel, us landowners sell off, we're getting 5% of that return. Now, not everyone has to buy fuel. If you're a free-to-play player, you can go to the Tier 0 regions and go and catch those Tier 0 alluvials at no cost. But anyone who wants to travel to a Stage 1 or Stage 3 region to be able to catch, Tier 1 through Tier 5 alluvials, they're going to have to pay some Krypton to travel. They're going to have to pay Solon to cure shards and Hyperion to forge equipment. So who's buying the fuel? We just touched on that. Anyone in the overworld who wants to really play in other parts of the game is going to be buying this fuel. Their goal is going to be to catch these alluvials for either themselves to go play in the arena, or maybe they want to sell their alluvials off to the competitive players who don't want to go and catch them and just want to compete in the arena. Can Illuvium simply just print fuel on demand? And I said, yes, well, sort of. So as mentioned before, when the landowner sells fuel to the market, Illuvium is printing 19x that fuel, but it's not for themselves. That 19x is what's going to be used as revdis for the ILV stakers. And so when you think about it, anytime Illuvium prints fuel is coming at the expense of another part of the economy. Because if 5% is going to the landowners and 95% is going to the ILV stakers, any fuel that Illuvium just prints and sends out for free is kind of just like an advancement on what you should already be getting. And I'm going to touch on that a little further in this video. So quickly, we'll talk about Rails. I say in here I could make a whole new thread on Rails, and I probably will at some point. But how it looks like it's going to be is that there's going to be a hard rail set. And first off, when you look at these fuel crates and they have that estimated dollar amount, that's based on whatever upper rail they set it at. So if they set it at, $1 per Krypton, when open beta comes, if it is $1 per Krypton, you'll get your $15 worth of fuel. But if fuel is trading for less than that, then if you sell your fuel crates onto the market, you're going to get less than what that estimated value is right now. And so back to the rails. If that rail is set at $1 and the demand is putting, Krypton or any fuel above that rail, that's when Illuvium starts printing more than 19x the fuel. They start printing an unlimited amount of fuel to keep up with the demand. But when they do that, any additional fuel that gets minted onto the market by Illuvium, 5% of that is still going back to the landowners. And the way that's going to get back to the landowners is one of two ways that hasn't quite been figured out yet. It's either going to wait until fuel price comes down and then do some fuel buybacks on the market, or it can just go back to the landowners in the form of an airdrop. All right, and here's where it gets a little more interesting. So, the early days of open beta. If we assume that Illuvium 0 and the overworld is going to launch their open beta at the same time, what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of demand for fuel for the overworld, but all of the landowners will be just starting to build out their Illuvium 0 land, and they're going to have very little fuel to sell to the market. So what would happen in that situation is that the fuel price would just shoot up crazy and get out of control. Now, that could be a complete disaster for the beginning of open beta, but there's two things that can help that. The first thing that can help that is the use of SILV2. But there's only so much SILV2 on the market, because when SILV2 is used, let's say it's used to travel, it doesn't buy fuel. That player is going to get to travel, and that SILV2 is just going to be burned. So that means neither the landowners or the stakers are going to get anything from that SILV2 sale. And that kind of bypasses the fuel system. And it could work out that early on, a ton of people are using that SILV2. And as that SILV2 liquidity gets less and less, hopefully by that time, the landowners are producing more and more fuel. But that's not the only way. The second thing that Illuvium could do to avoid this disaster is to simply give fuel to the landowners to make up for the lack of production that they're going to have on their land. And when you think about that, that's kind of like the aha moment that should be, you know, raising that light bulb in your head. And so let's go to the 3 reasons I had here. So the thank you. First off, the Illuvium team didn't have to do anything. So even if we look at this airdrop as just kind of like an advancement on what we should be getting, you know, they didn't have to do anything. I think they heard that the Illuvium landowners, I guess you could use the word disgruntled a little bit right now. They're seeing that Illuvium Beyond has leaderboard rewards, the arena has leaderboard rewards, and the landowners have felt like, all right, so we spent all this money on land almost 2 years ago, and we really haven't gotten much out of it. So is this really a thank you to the landowners? Sort of. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't think it's necessarily the thank you, the marketing, or the strategic plan is the only one. I think it's a little bit of all of it. So the marketing play. Illuvium basically can announce now that they just did a massive airdrop of what should equate to over $1 million. For marketing, that's great. You know, I hope a ton of people see that. I hope they push it out more for marketing and more people see Illuvium and they want to jump into this system because they can see that, you know, the team is doing these airdrops. Airdrops are big right now. It creates excitement. And the way I look at it, when we touch under this strategic part, is that this was kind of something that was necessary. So if you were going to do it anyways, you might as well use it for some additional like free marketing. So the strategic plan part, like I said, this was almost necessary because there's going to be so little fuel generated early on in the early days, and there's probably going to be a ton of demand that comes in right away that wants to buy this fuel. So really what they're doing is they're just giving the landowners that fuel that they can't produce yet to be able to sell to all the people in the overworld who want to buy that fuel. Like, this is necessary. And I think as we get closer to open beta and the team gets a better idea of how much demand they're going to have, we could see more of these fuel crate airdrops coming. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get, you know, another 1, 2, whatever airdrop of this so that they know that there's going to be enough fuel on the market when we get to open beta. And now my final thoughts here. So in my opinion, for the landowners, this is basically, I guess you'd just call it a nothing burger. It doesn't hurt us, but it doesn't necessarily help us out that much. Because if you understand how the whole system works, landowners are getting 5% of the revenue that comes in. Stakers are getting 95%. Now, landowners are going to get that 5% no matter what. And by Illuvium sending out these fuel crates, it doesn't mean that there's going to be any more demand coming in. So if there's, say, $1 million worth of revenue coming in, it doesn't matter whether a landowner is producing more or less fuel. When it comes to like the dollar amount in return, you're going to get the same either way. So this is more for the fuel buyers and the overworld players. Giving us landowners the fuel to start off with means that they can keep the fuel prices down a little bit for the overworld players without it spiraling out of control. So when you look at your fuel crate and say you have a tier 2 land and it's saying it's worth $45, well, guess what? If they didn't send out any of those fuel crates, you would still make that $45 or equivalent. It's just that the fuel prices that you're selling will be more per unit. But I do see this as a net positive. Like I said, it might be a nothing burger for the landowners, but for the overall ecosystem, I think it's good. It was used for marketing. Airdrop marketing is going to be great. And it's something that's necessary because they need that fuel on the market for the demand that they're expecting to get early in open beta. And if you are a landowner, please don't look at this as FUD. I'm not trying to spread any FUD. I just look at this and I feel like I understand the Illuvium economy very well. So I just wanted to share my thoughts, just how I see it. And like I said, everyone can make up their own opinions. But that is it for this video. If you thought this was helpful information, you want to see me make more and more content like this, even if it's being a little more critical of Illuvium, then please make sure you're subscribed, share this video, click my link for the creator rewards, and I'll catch you in the next video. Have a good one.